Togo political prisoners, the great forgotten of the presidential grace. 10 criminals go free are better than one innocent in prison. Alexis Aubenque. The unexpected information falls last Thursday in the evening on social networks. A presidential pardon would be granted to prisoners who could immediately leave the various detention centers across the Togo territory, olais, where they served their time. Who in Togo today wouldn't jump over the word prisoner? Both the drama of prisoners, especially political, is topiced almost every day by private Togolese media. That is why, going through such a presidential decree signed since the 31st of October, 2022, one could not help but think of these political prisoners, many of whom have been crumbling for several years, some of whom are ill, and who could become ill to find freedom, and their families. Indeed, a list of 364 alleged prisoners who benefited from the goodwill of Nasingbe to recover freedom jumps into your eyes as soon as you open the PDF containing the presidential decree. As an observer of the political scene of our country, and especially of the political human drama that has been playing there for half a century, we naturally have a few observations to make. First of all, according to our small survey of prisoners still in detention or released, and some of their parents, the list of prisoners who would have been released on presidential pardon would have been exaggerated. In other words, this list would be much more important than ours compatriots who actually regain freedom. It occurred to us that many on the notorious list would have already been released after serving their sentences, and we do not understand this manipulation of the true numbers of pardoned prisoners. Is it a curse that our political authorities are condemned to do nothing but falsehood? Poor Togo. We run after international summits or conferences, we invite ourselves into crises and conflicts to declare ourselves mediator, we proclaim that we are a country of peace. Cleverly orchestrated fireworks to attract the compassionate look of the international community. Togo organized from 27 to the 29th of October 2022 in Lomé the third edition of the ECOWAS Forum on Education to the Culture of Peace through Intra and Interfaith Dialogue. Following this folklore that could have been done without, Lomé was consecrated, capital of peace, mediation, dialogue and tolerance. This is what the director of publication of the newspaper Liberty number 3729 of Monday, the 31st of October, 2022 wrote in his editorial. A few days after the Lomé event, where our country was praised and haloed for its supposed sense of dialogue, mediation and tolerance by other ECOWAS member countries, whose sense of responsibility is also to be desired, we issue a decree for the so-called granting the presidential thanks to prisoners made up of little delinquents, guilty of minor offences, while dozens of political prisoners are left on the streets. A capital of peace, mediation, dialogue and tolerance. Can she afford the luxury of looking like a capital of fear, terror, where it is not good to live when you are against the regime in place, when you are a critic of that regime or not, and come from the diaspora, and where especially several citizens remain being held in inhumane conditions for their political views? Nasingbe and his entourage know it well. This presidential grace decided on the tip of the lips to once again deceive the opinion, especially international, because the wise Togolese no longer be fooled. Brings nothing to decrispity. We have the necessary political climate for our country. That's why many Togolese Democrats wonder, after this umpteenth bad joke by the de facto president of Togo, what fate does Lomé's dictatorship power really intend to reserve for the Togolese? To continue spending billions of our francs to send a glaring image of Togo abroad, while still playing the Makute at home, terrorizing and keeping the population enslaved? Is that really the agenda? Which frame of government is suitable for the Nasingbe regime? We will never say it enough, if the Togolese regime, despite its unpopularity, despite the multiple denunciations of human rights violations such as assassinations, arbitrary arrests, torture, despite the many scandals related to the corruption and the numerous embezzlement of public funds, involving senior figures at the top of the state, continue to be stubborn, pretending all is well in Togo, while our country is the sickest on all levels of the sub-region, this is partly due to total resignation of our opponents. Where are all these ex-C14 political party officials? If we know the situation of some people whose fate is tied to their degree of persecution by the regime, we cannot understand this lethargy, or this indifference of those who had taken it upon them to speak on behalf of the populace. Togolese nations, including the most, are free from their movements, and that was why, without being mean to anyone, we asked ourselves in a previous outing, if decentralization in Togolese, with the acquisition of town halls by some opposition leaders, was an end for them in B. What we believe not. By the way, we don't believe any future elections, whatever they may be, will solve the liberation of Togo. Chijobo Youth Germany.